Hello and welcome to Behind the Lens, an inside look at what it's like to gather TV news. I'm Stuart Pittman, Chief Photojournalist for QCN Plus, and I'm glad you're here. This week, we're turning our attention to something that's been a source of mystery for decades: women. Local TV news. It's a man's world. Yeah, right. Across the television landscape, female photographers have some of the sharpest eyes out there. That's not news. But women behind the lens share a unique perspective, and to better understand it, we're going to go straight to the source. Yes, we are, and joining us to get to the bottom of this very important issue are three women in the business. Jen Kaiser, who produces news down in Myrtle Beach. Thanks for joining us. Jenna Pinto, our own extremely talented photojournalist here at Queen City News. Jenna, hello.
Hi.
Hi. And Shakira Speaks, one of our reporters here at QCN Plus, who's got some really interesting perspective on women shooting and men shooting. But before we get started, I, as a girl dad, feel a little weird about doing a piece in 2026 about women in any industry. Women have been in every industry since 100 years ago. And while I'm no history major, I know that it's not a new development. And in highlighting it, it almost sounds like we're pointing at it like it's an oddity. It's not. But I do think that women have a unique perspective in everything they do, especially news. I don't know the percentage of television news photographers that are men, but I'd say 90, 95. What would you say, Jenna Pinto?
I would say probably around that. I think that there's only 2 female photographers in Charlotte right now. So, yeah, I would say probably
There are 3 female photographers. You were here. WCNC has a female photographer, and WSOC a female.
Wait, BTV does too. The chief photographer.
4.
Okay,
So
okay.
there's one at each station.
Okay.
And I don't know about Spectrum, but
I guess I just don't see them.
Well,
We're few and far between. It's hard. We notice when they're there.
Mm-hmm.
Let me put it that way.
Well, one of the female photogs that I have noticed for about a decade is right there, other place. Jen Kaiser. Jen, you're now in Myrtle Beach as a producer. You are what we in the business call a house cat, in that you spend all your day inside putting newscasts together. You're no longer on the street. But I knew you as a photojournalist right out there beside me. What do you like better, inside or out?
I like both. I was 23 years out in the field, so I love being out and about. Inside, it's just nice and warm, and you're not out covering the elements. I still love photography, but I just was ready for a change and ready to be inside with more set hours. Producing, you have set hours. You go home after your shift. You're not worried about breaking news. So it's a different pace.
It is. For at least 10 years, you may have just told me, 15 or so, you were on the street here in Charlotte, covering every kind of news story there was. And Charlotte, like a lot of other places, can be a rough and tumble place to go shoot news. I can't count how many times I was in a really sketchy neighborhood and looked across the street, and there you were with your camera. Asking what it's like to be a woman in TV is asking a fish what it's like to live in the water. Who knows? That's all you've ever known. But did you have any unique perspectives in such a man's world as it was and kind of still is?
Doing it for 23 years, I kind of felt like one of the guys, but there were some aspects where I think we brought a more emotion into it. I feel like people could connect with us more. You get the emotion out of people. Sometimes being a lady, you're expected to be more emotional. There were times where I know guys would go up and ask information and they'd be told no. I'd go up with a different perspective and they'd tell me yes. So it's the same, but it's a little bit different.
Well, on the opposite side of that coin, what were some of the downsides of being a woman in this field?
I'm short. Covering
sure.
Panthers locker room just was horrible because I couldn't get my camera up high enough. Sometimes people don't take you as serious, but you just learn and you prove yourself and you show that you can shoot as good as the guys, sometimes better than the guys. And then you just get the respect from everyone else that the guys get.
Well, let me ask Jenna Pinto about that because she's over there nodding her head, and we've talked off camera about this as well. Jenna, you're here in the Charlotte market, much like Jen was, covering every kind of news story there was. What's the upside and the downside to being a female in this field?
Well, I'm taller than Jen, so I do have that going for me. But I was laughing because even being taller than you are, I think that regardless, when you're in a scrum and there's so many photographers in at the same time, like I have sat my camera on top of my head. I can't even tell you how many times because I'm like, I'm not gonna fight this. I'm not gonna try to keep it on my shoulder. I'm just gonna wear it on my head like a hat.
Right there's a picture.
I actually put my tripod underneath other people's tripods in press conferences. Carl from Channel 9 was so tall I could just slide in underneath his lens.
You know, it's perks. It goes both ways. You fit in smaller spaces. I always make jokes about that. I fit in tiny spaces. I have been that person that like wiggles and I'm like, it's all right. I don't take up that much space. And the bigger, like bulky guys are like, I would never fit there.
Right.
Well, when I was pregnant, I didn't fit anywhere. So,
well, speaking of fitting and fitting in differently, Shakira, you had a very unique comment to me the other day. You work with all kinds of photographers in your role as a nightside reporter here at Queen City News. You mentioned you thought that women shoot a little differently than men. I've got to hear more about that.
Yeah, it's similar to what Jen was saying. That women photographers just approach a story differently. You approach breaking news differently. You approach even a feature story differently. Women see through the lens just a little different. You see it with more emotion, with more care. You know how I've worked with Jenna a couple of times, and you ask different questions. You frame the subject a little differently. I've worked with Jenna before with another woman, and she's like, maybe this isn't her best side. I've worked with men who will just plop a camera down and just shoot. And then we go back and I'm like, her face looks a little weird on this side. It's a little shadow here. Even when I'm working with Jenna, and I've worked with Chelsea before, I've worked with another female photographer down in Columbus, Georgia. I will ask them, am I missing anything? Do you have any questions? And Jenna, of course, Jenna will always have a question, but it's always just something different. Working with, not saying that the male photographers don't do that, but normally they're just not paying attention. They're worried more about our surroundings, especially working with a female reporter. They just shoot different. I'm sure Jen and Jenna can say that you can shoot the same thing,
right,
as a male photographer, and it will look completely different.
I will say that we are a lot more detail oriented, a little bit more focused on that, and making people feel more comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with the comfort thing because I've had that experience myself. But we're going to get into all that and a lot more. But first, we're going to take a very quick break. And we're back talking about women behind the lens in television news. We've talked about some of the upsides. Let's talk about some of the downsides because there has to be some downsides to being a woman. There's downsides to being a man out in TV photojournalism. I can't imagine being a woman. Jen Kaiser in Myrtle Beach, what would you say the biggest downside has been? Or give me an example of something that's not great about being a woman. Television.
I can't pee in a bush very easily.
Yeah.
You're closer to the ground.
Well, let's explain that. When you're in news, when you're covering a story, sometimes you are literally on the side of the road for 4, 5, 6 hours, and no one parked a porta potty there for you. Men can sometimes wander off and take care of business. A little harder for women, I take it.
Yes.
Have you honestly ever been in that situation?
Many times.
Okay, I would have figured as much, but I don't think people realize what we go through for something as trivial as television news.
No, and on those hot days when it's 100 and you know you need a drink, but you don't want to drink because there's no bathroom for you to use, it can get miserable.
The constant state of wanting to be just hydrated enough to not have a headache so that you can still do your job.
And not be aggravated. my gosh, yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, I thought I had it hard. Um, Moving on though, we had, I mean, it's a fascinating subject. Don't get me wrong. I could talk about this all day, but moving on a bit, I know just from being out in the field with female photographers that they're not always taken as serious as they take themselves. And they should take themselves seriously because they're out there doing a job just like anybody else. But I know there are times that people come up to you and say things to you, Jenna, that they wouldn't say to me. Talk to me.
No. I mean, they'll ask us if do we need help parking our vehicle? Because we obviously we cannot parallel park as women or park in general as women.
Mm.
Can we carry your gear? Because like here I have my camera here.
Yeah, show us the camera.
They are quite large.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can see how big it is. It is as big as my entire torso and head together.
Sure.
And so it is, I am clearly not strong enough to carry it.
Plus a tripod.
So we are carrying quite a bit of weight.
Yeah.
Right. All the time. And so, do we need help doing that? Are we sure that we shouldn't have a cart? Maybe we should pull that in a cart. Yes, I have a cart. I chose not to use it today.
Yeah.
And then just
they don't understand. They don't understand that the camera and the tripod balances you out. You need both.
every
They
single
might
time.
be
It is
big,
so
but-
hard to explain that, right?
Yes.
But no one's ever come up to me and said, "Hey, little fella,
Yes.
can I help you?"
My
carry the
favorite
gear?"
is, are you comfortable driving that live truck?
No one's comfortable driving a live truck. It's impossible to be comfortable
Yeah.
driving a live truck. I'm sorry.
And you do get, even from peers, occasionally you'll get some comments or frustrations with some of your peers occasionally. And I don't think that it's intentional. I think that sometimes they just kind of forget who they're talking to. And so then it's a double-edged sword because you want to be treated like one of the guys.
Mhm.
So you want them to feel comfortable enough to make those comments, but then you're also like, I don't know that I was the right audience for that.
Well, a newsroom is a rough and tumble place. A newsroom, a news scene. We don't always use the language we should. It's sort of a unvarnished look at life. My wife works in a very professional environment, and I don't think that any of us could survive there.
Yeah.
Because we're just used to a newsroom and a news scene. So I can imagine
We're unfiltered.
we're unfiltered, and I can imagine that you do hear things you probably would rather not, or that as a man doesn't make me sorry.
No. I mean, I would say that for the most part, I want things like that. But then it's like if you get a promotion or you get a better shift or you get anything like that, then sometimes you get a little bit of pushback from some of your colleagues that maybe have worked there longer or feel justified in the position that you got. They think that they deserved it more. And so that dig that wouldn't mean anything if they were doing to their male counterpart, that they're all of a sudden saying, oh, well, what did she do to get that?
Yeah.
I wonder how she got that. Then you're like, no, it's because I'm a really good photographer. I'm a really good photojournalist. It's because I work really
And
hard.
sometimes better than
Oh yeah.
male counterparts.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. What was that again? What did you say?
Sometimes.
We have strengths. Everybody has strengths and weaknesses.
Yep.
So,
I would agree. And as
Yes.
someone who looks at perspective photographer tapes, if you will, to see if we want to hire them, man or woman really doesn't enter into it. It's all what you can put on screen.
Yeah.
And I can tell you that Jenna and Jen are powerful photogs, and I really wouldn't want to go up against them in any competition because I'm pushing 60, and who wants to do that anyway? But you guys are formidable competitors,
Yeah.
and I don't have to tell you that. You know that.
One thing
boy, do you know that.
One thing I've learned with working with the women that I've worked with behind the camera is they're a lot stronger, a lot more firm, affirmative, and even more aggressive than the male photogs that I work with. We'll be at a breaking news scene right in front of the police tape, and they'll tell us to move. And Jenna, Chelsea, any other woman I've worked with, they're super firm with, no, we don't have to leave. We're right here. Some other males that I've worked with, they're like, okay, I'm gonna pack it up. I don't really care. But the women will get you in a certain place, just like Jenna said. We'll wiggle our way in there and move into these little small places, and none of the men will say anything because we're women. Like there are some upsides about being a duo, a women duo, a female duo, or whatever. But
Well, that's interesting because those are things that I may not
But
be able to
I think-
capitalize on. Go ahead, Jen.
I think we have to have confidence
Yes.
in this role.
Yes.
Because if we didn't, we wouldn't be taken seriously.
Yes.
So we have to believe in ourselves and fight for what we know is right.
We're playing the mental game too.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
and some of it Shaq touched on earlier was that the way that we converse with people, the way that we have conversations with people, like, I don't actually need to fix that woman's hair or redress that microphone, but I can tell
Yeah.
that
It's a
she is
comfort
a little uncomfortable getting in front of the camera, or I can tell that that security guard is wanting to just push the boundaries a little bit to see if he can push us back, not
Mhm.
because we need to, but because he wants to show a little bit of authority over us. And so it's playing that constant mental game of, how far can I push back then too? Because if you're going to play this game with me, then I'm not going to sit there and be timid and just take it. Or on the opposite side with people that we're doing interviews with, I'm going to recognize that and the empath in me. And I think that we're all much more female photojournalists, I think, are more empathetic, which means that I'll also be that person bawling my eyes out behind the camera for a really emotional interview
Sure.
with absolutely no qualms about, like, I don't care. I'm going to sit there and give you a hug afterward too. So it plays on both sides.
Is it I guess we can talk about this after the break, but is it any different working with, as a female photographer working with female and or male reporters? What's the
Ooh.
difference?
Ooh, I like
'Cause I know the difference for me working with a male or a female. We can definitely.
I like that a lot. Let's get into that right after this break. And we're back talking about women in local television news. Shakira, you had an interesting point a minute ago about female reporters and male photographers versus male photographers and male reporters and female photographers and female reporters.
Yeah.
You have no guarantees of who you will work with when you come in to the newsroom on any given day. So
Yeah, essentially. Now we just have we're getting three males, but dayside, unless Jenna wants to work nightside or whatever. But yes, working with a female photographer and working with a male photographer to me is completely different. With the male photographer, certain male photographers, you feel a little bit more safe. I don't have to watch my surroundings as much because I'm expecting the man to do it. To kind of just watch around,
Sure.
I do ask all of my male photographers and female photographers, do you need any help picking the stuff up? You need me to help you breaking down? Because I see them as one of the guys. I see them as equal. But with working with Jenna, I watch her surroundings. I watch her back just like she watches my back.
Right.
If I'm working with somebody like Marcus will tell me, go sit down, go sit in the car. I got it. He will make sure that I'm safe. But I'm sure that working with a male reporter is different than working with a woman photographer. We got to put makeup on. The man just gets out, whatever. But
I mean, they can wear some makeup sometimes. They can wear some makeup sometimes. Sometimes they take longer because
very true.
they don't know what they're doing.
That's very true. As do male reporters, do you feel safer with them, or what do you do with them?
I do feel a little bit safer. Sometimes I make them carry something only because of the social perception of it, that it makes them look bad if they're not carrying. So then I'm like, gosh, I really don't want to give you my tripod because it does balance it out. But I don't want every single person we pass in the next 3 blocks to be like, you're making her carry everything.
Everything.
Yeah, you can't.
The worst is in the airport.
Yeah.
Yes,
Oh man,
yes.
yes.
Yeah.
Even when we're out like on breaking news, just like you said, being out late at night, Stuart, even when if I'm with Corey, if we take separate cars, I will still sit back and just make sure the car starts up.
Sure.
I'll make sure he backs up and everything. Some other people will just go away. If me and Jenna take different cars, I will make sure that she's there. Marcus will make sure that I'm good first, and then he's like, now I will handle everything that I need to handle. You get out of here. I'm good.
I do try to make an active effort to make sure that they know that I'm the reporter, whether they're male or female, knows that I am watching my surroundings,
Right.
double checking that everything is safe. I've always had a rule which I know that it probably annoys reporters, especially in the summer, where I try to keep a window cracked or the trunk open or something when I'm shooting, like especially in an area that's not super nice. Cause I'm like, look, I get you got stuff to do, maybe in the car, you have to log something or you have to be on the computer. But if you're not going to be next to me, I want to be able to at least hear you and you can hear me in some capacity, even if it's just like a window cracked. And I also have a tendency to lock my keys in my car, so I have to keep the window cracked.
I'm also watching when I'm on the computer. I'm still looking up,
Mhm.
making sure I can keep you in eyesight, male or female, but females for sure, because you guys are paying attention to the camera and everything. I still try to. I think my senses are heightened when
Right.
I'm working with a woman.
I feel like some of the stories that we get put on are different too.
Sure.
When I worked in Tampa, Florida, the reporter that I was married to, the one that I worked with every single day, we got put on all of the dead people. That's a horrible thing. We were the Grim Reapers, and it was
Sure.
because they thought female photographer, female reporter, you guys are going to be the nicest, and you're going to approach the families of grieving people like the best possible way. And so we did get a lot of interviews because we were a lot more unassuming. We were a lot more empathetic in that approach.
Yeah.
So I think that even the stories that we go on, like they might not send us out on all of the same stories
Yeah.
as a female combo. What do you
Right.
think, Jen?
For sure. You have that morning meeting and you're looking at the rundown and who gets what stories, and some are just more female oriented stories. And
Yeah.
you're going to get a better story with two women versus a man and a woman, or a
I
man and a man.
I don't think you can deny that, and I think to try and deny that is just a fool's errand.
Mhm.
But with all this being said, I've got to ask: is this the kind of thing you would recommend for your daughter, your niece, a young lady who might come to you and say, "Man, that's a cool job. I want to do that." What is it you would tell them?
Well, I
Yeah,
have a
make-
daughter. What were you going to say, Jen? You go first.
Go for it. Go for it.
I have a daughter. She's 9 months old, and I don't think that I would want her in TV news, but not because I don't like what I do. I love what I do. My husband also works in TV news. He loves what he does.
Mhm.
But I don't want her to go into the same thing that we went into. So I would say do something different, something STEM.
Mm.
I want her, and I also think that the future of news will look so different for that generation than it will for our generation. So,
Sure.
what were you going to say, Jen?
I was going to say, yeah. I mean, besides, working every holiday and, being out in the elements, but it's great. It makes you a stronger person. It makes you confident. It shows you the things that you can do regardless of being male or female. I think it's great for your overall,
I love
health,
that.
I guess.
I have two daughters who grew up with their dad in TV news, and they did not go into TV news. They never even expressed an interest in it whatsoever. And I'm kind of glad they not go into TV news, but they had every opportunity. They were smarter
Yeah.
than that.
What about you,
Shaq?
Shaq?
I think they can do it.
I think they can do it too. I don't know if I would push my daughter into it, but if she came to me and said that she wanted to do it, we'd look at the salaries at that time. But absolutely, I definitely think it does build character. You got to have the personality for it. And if she's gonna be my daughter, she's definitely gonna be confident enough to do it.
No
Absolutely.
doubt, no doubt.
Makes you
And we need more.
physically-
We need women. It's like women in STEM. We do need more women photographers. I love looking down at a Hornets game or a Panthers game and seeing women carrying the cameras, taking pictures and everything. It's different than being an anchor, being a reporter. But when
Sure.
you see them behind the camera, absolutely.
In what has always been thought of for right or wrong as a not a man's world, but a
a
man's
male
world.
dominated
A male dominated
because of the equipment.
Yeah.
You just don't want women are supposed to be dainty, feminine.
We want them to be
stuff, but
physically and mentally strong.
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Well, you guys have made me mentally stronger. I don't know about physically, but this has been very
do you want my
interesting.
camera?
Thanks.
No,
You do some camera
Razor, I
girls?
don't want that camera anymore. Jen Kaiser from Myrtle Beach, making TV inside. Thank you so much for
Thank
taking
you.
some of your time. You are a badass photog. I know that because I've seen you in action, shoulder to shoulder, in places I didn't want to be.
Yes,
So thank you very much. Jenna, Shakira, thank you as well. You're equally awesome. This has been an interesting conversation about women in TV news, but not our last one because it's a big, deep subject that we can talk about for hours and hours. But for now, we're going to wrap it up. That was Behind the Lens, an inside look at what it's like to gather TV news. Go call your mom and be nice to her.
Queen City News Plus. Just search Queen City News on your smart TV's app store.